Lacrosse. It's a sport that has always had popularity in high schools and college, but a professional league has yet to find and capture America's attention. One player, though, rose above everything and is widely regarded as the best professional lacrosse player ever, Paul Rabil. And now Paul Rabil is trying to build the sport with the Premier Lacrosse League. And the Premier Lacrosse League is a new league that is growing. And the hopes are, with a new partnership with ESPN, that the PLL can, by next year, when they're playing in their own stadiums, capture a chunk of the American viewing experience so they could finally build the sport of lacrosse. Rabil has been heavily involved in getting lacrosse into the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, and he is joining me now for a walk as we discuss the future of lacrosse, his career, and his new book. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, great to see you again.
How's it going?
You're repping the Atlas hat.
Yes, I am.
I love it. Okay,
Yes, I am.
All right, got this book for you.
All right. Oh, awesome. So, well, this is the new season in the PLL is getting ready to start.
Yeah.
What are the big things you're looking forward to this season?
Oh man, well, number one is we have our 8 teams in home cities for the first time. So you have New York Atlas, and that's new to our league. When we started for the first 5 years, we didn't assign our teams to cities because there was a lot we didn't know as operators. Like, where do we put the teams? There's fans nationwide. So we wanted to learn about our audience. That is going to be so big for us, I think, because sport is really about community and the fans in New York, the fans in Boston, the fans in Carolina and Utah and Denver and California and Philadelphia. So that's going to be awesome, and number one. Number two is we'll have games on television every weekend this summer, like we did last year. ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. All of our games will be on ESPN Plus, so anyone can watch at any time, anywhere, which is really cool. And then the third is, I would say now that the sport has gotten back into the Olympics, it's supercharged awareness around the game. And there's going to be new fans coming in because we all just know what the Olympics means, and for lacrosse to be back allows us to catapult the PLL this season. What are you excited for?
Well, I'm just looking forward to seeing the league. I downloaded the PLL app to make sure I'm able to follow along.
Yeah. Shout out to Brendan Coleman. He's our product engineer, and he's built the PLL app in-house. It's really great. People can play fantasy on it. They can follow, they can watch, they can see all the news that breaks.
I mean, lacrosse has been popular in college, it's been popular in high school, but why has it had such trouble finding its niche in professionals?
Well, I think every sport has had trouble historically. The NFL really struggled early on with college football being king. The NBA had a really hard time up until the David Stern era of the 80s, and now what Adam Silver's done. Even golf was a college game first. So I think, pro lacrosse has struggled if you go all the way back to the 70s from trying, experimenting, and the reality is we needed better operators, a deeper investment, a network partner. There's this saying in Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner film, that I hate. I like the film, but I hate the saying. It's if you build it, they will come. And that's how professional lacrosse used to be. Let's roll out a league and then everyone's gonna come. No fucking way, it doesn't happen. So you have to invest in your ticket sales department and creating great merchandise and have a network deal and all this stuff that can lift the sport. So that was our thesis, at least. And it's been really frustrating because I spent most of my career playing in a league that no one watched. And
that was the league that was started by the guy from Body by Jake.
Body by Jake, who, done a phenomenal job with his career. But I think what they were doing at the time was saying, hey, this sport like lacrosse is taken off in America. Let's start a pro league and sort of sit on it as if it's beachfront water property.
I mean, I remember they were actually, weren't they playing games in Montclair State, New Jersey?
Yeah.
That was my college, that's my alma mater, and I remember, they're playing a professional lacrosse league here?
There's things like that, right? Like, even when we did our ESPN deal, and I grew up having the privilege of playing on ESPNU at Johns Hopkins, which was a big deal for our program, for me. It helped launch my professional career because I was able to build a social media following from it. But it's ESPN University. And so when we cut our deal, I was like, our games can't be on ESPNU because that's where people go to watch college. You know, so there's things like, there's touch like that. And of course, they've done an even better job than we could have ever imagined by ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. But to your point, when you're building a pro league, the hardest part and why most people fail is that you essentially have to roll out a red carpet and pretend that you've made it before you have. You have to get the fans to believe that when they spend on a ticket, it's going to feel like they're going to a Major League Baseball ballpark.
I mean, I think the spring football leagues are trying to do that, and they give that vibe off. That's how they got their big TV deals. They got The Rock involved.
The Rock is the biggest star in spring football by far. The problem that spring football has is they don't have the best football players in the world.
No.
And what fans want when they spend on a ticket or watch a game on TV is they want to know that they're watching the best there is. That's the challenge with the Olympics right now, too. They're trying to ensure that the leagues allow the best players to play. You know, we all know Olympic soccer ain't the World Cup.
Well, they deliberately make it that way, except for the women. The women do.
Exactly, and they got it right. So anyway, we think about that stuff all the time. You know, how the UFC has gotten as big as they are. Why did F1 become so big in America over the last 5 years?
Because the men actually have a rule for the Olympics. Has to be 22 under, I believe.
Yeah, and you know, Olympic basketball went through that phase for a little bit. The Dream Team was the Dream Team because it was the first time back in the Olympics with pros. You know?
I think this year's Olympic tournament for basketball is going to be one of the toughest ever for the United States, especially playing a good French squad on their own soil.
I think it's still hard for a lot of basketball fans to wrap their head around that because you see Steph, LeBron, KD, Ant, and you're like, no way these guys lose. But European basketball, this goes back to your question, David Stern helping bring international players domestically wasn't about growing revenue and attention. It was about opening up the pipeline to players all around the world to play in the NBA.
The Dream Team did that.
They helped. But when Stern took the NBA over to Asia and doing these exhibitions, yeah, the Dream Team brought the vibe. Because the Dream Team played in Barcelona and everyone was like, holy shit, this guy Michael Jordan is the coolest and best thing we've ever seen.
That's the thing that's happening. I don't even remember what channel Major League Lacrosse was on, if it was on a channel or anything like that.
No, it wasn't. They decided to, at the time, because of OTT services streaming, they were like, hey, instead of paying a network, which is our business called a time buy, instead of paying a network to have and distribute our games, why don't we bring on our own producers and we put it behind a paywall and we monetize against every head that watches, and they built Lax Sports Network. So essentially you're shrinking the audience. You know, to this day, people go, oh, what happened to boxing? You know, it's too confusing.
They put it behind pay-per-view.
Bingo. It used to be on ABC.
ESPN used to have Friday Night Fights. Tuesday used to be on ABC, on USA Network.
And it's been lucrative for the business. The athletes get paid well, the top ones. But the sports exposure has lost out, and now MMA is the fight sport of popularity.
And even though they have like their main events on pay-per-view, ESPN has those the first 2 hours. The undercard is always on, always on.
Yeah, you got to get the title fight back to the masses. So that's the thing. That's why broadcast and cable, I think, has another decade or so, especially related to sport. You know, it's hard to predict with AI and technology how, you know, sports fans will continue to evolve. I think the NFL is canary in the coal mine. They can change everything because their audience and demand is so big. But there's nothing quite like broadcast and cable because it introduces the sport to new fans. You think about like lead-in programming for Seinfeld and others, like they give you a primetime spot to try and hold an audience that's already there. That's what's beneficial to us when we're on ABC, is we come on after the College World Series, after the French Open, after the NBA playoffs. We get access to 1 million sports fans that can decide if they want to stay on and watch.
Because that's, like I said, I remember when the Major League Lacrosse started, they had a big buzz. Body by Jake was out there, and then you heard nothing. Like,
yeah,
it like completely like disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, he's the king of buzz. He's really good at generating hype and awareness. He did it for a living, you know. But that's the challenge. Like, how can you sustain? You know, there's a stat that since 1990, 200 sports leagues have formed with a 1% success rate. And the success rate is based on, can you have a season after your third? Most leagues fold. Even American Alliance Football League, XFL, they all turn over because it's so hard to sustain. And credit to Jake and the MLL, they sustained for 20 years. Now we took over.
You played in that league. You won countless awards for that league, MVPs, championships.
Yeah.
And then, but that league was a summer league. And then there is the indoor league, the National Lacrosse League.
Yeah.
Now, how does that differ from outdoor lacrosse and traditional lacrosse?
So think of it as soccer, right? At least in America. We see UEFA, the Champions League, Premier League, MLS, La Liga. That's all 10-on-10 outdoor. And then you have arena football or indoor soccer, which is a different version. Smaller field, indoors, 5-on-5, fast pace, exciting. That's not for every soccer fan, but it is for many. Indoor lacrosse sort of feels that way. It's indoors, it's 5-on-5, shorter version, a lot of action. But lacrosse, the genesis of lacrosse was always on the field. It was created by Native Americans thousands of years ago, sometimes played on fields that stretched for miles with hundreds of people on each side, no time constraints. Indoor lacrosse started in Canada because it's so goddamn cold there. And they have all these amazing ice rinks. So they decided in the summer, when the ice wasn't there, to use that surface to play what they call box lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I played in the NLL for 7 years, learned a lot, developed skills, built some long-lasting friendships with teammates, won a championship. And I think the sport benefits from box lacrosse. Young kids out there develop their skill sets, and they take it on to university to play for their college teams in the PLL. Much like, you know, some of the greatest footballers, the Brazilians, they play futsal.
Or what do they call it in Brazil? Sacolito?
Yeah.
When they play in the Olympics, it's going to be like a different sport than both of them. It's like a hybrid, I believe.
Yeah. Now we can confuse the audience even more. So when we got into the Olympics, you know, first of all, when I started playing, there were 18 countries that played lacrosse. Now there are 91. But what's most important to the Olympics is parity of play, where US and Canada and the Haudenosaunee really dominated the rest of the world. So we created a version that we thought would increase the parity of play, where everyone has the same stick size. It's 5-on-5 on the field, goalie each. And the other thing that's important to the Olympics is head count. That's why you see a lot of new sports that are individual sports introduced, because it just costs less money. You can have 12 countries participating, 2 athletes per country, 24 heads you got to pay for. In team sports, it's 24 players on a team. 12 teams gets really expensive. So that was also figuring out how to make the math work to get lacrosse back into the Olympics and build an exciting game that's competitive across the world.
Now, this year I believe you're doing like weekend tournaments or weekend like showcases in different cities.
Yeah.
Now, what's that about? Where's our schedule taking the PLL this year?
So going back to that stat around why most sports leagues fail is they create more supply than there is demand. So when we started the PLL, there were 15 million lacrosse fans, according to MRI Simmons, the report that ESPN runs. Now there are 46 million, so we're starting to build it. When we first started, our teams weren't tied to cities and we were touring. We felt like touring like the PGA or like F1 or UFC is best for the fans, it's best for the business, it's best for the players. And frankly, the network just has to go to one location to produce and distribute all 4 games. This stage that we're in now with teams in cities is phase 2, where we're touring still, but going to the home markets of each of our teams. Phase 3 might be, okay, we then go to a home and away model, potentially team owners. Well, but we've got to make sure that the supply that we're getting out is not exceeding the demand. Now,
we've had involvement from part of my take with Big Cat PFT with the Water Dogs.
Those guys are the best. Do you know they named the Water Dogs?
I did not know they actually chose that name.
Yeah, they chose the name, so it's them, we have them to blame.
There are worse names out there. I mean, come on, we got the...
People love dogs. People love dogs.
I mean, we got the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians.
That's true. That's true. No, we, those guys are so great. They had me on PMT for the first time the week before our inaugural season in 2019. And we just had a laugh at the stereotypes in lacrosse, my wage previously. That interview actually made our documentary that's on Hulu called Fate of a Sport, where Big Cat was like, "You got paid how much as a rookie?" I was like, $6,000. Are you fucking kidding me?
That's the minimum wage.
What I love about those guys is their mind for branding and their touch and their creativity, what we were just talking about earlier, where a lot of leagues miss. So when we made our first expansion announcement, I picked up the phone and was like, "Hey, Big Cat, what do you think? You guys want to, first of all, break this news, and then second of all, name the team." He goes, "Come on the show, let's talk about it." So I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought I was prepared for them to be like, "This is the name, take it or leave it," but they gave us a chance to take back 12 names to our audience. Our audience voted, they decided, and we announced. I love those guys.
But yeah, I mean, and of course you've had a good partnership with Barstool. Barstool's sent coverage out there, and that helps get an audience.
Yeah. I mean, look, Barstool, I think, is modern media, where you have Dave and Big Cat, KFC. These guys were like, "Hey, we have this rocket ship called social media and the internet to our advantage. That's different than when the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, ESPN were all founded." Yeah, I mean, those are traditional media. It's more expensive, and your reach is limited to people who not only have a subscription but are tuning in at a certain time. Social media has this long tail, immediate reach, 3 billion people on the platform. They're like, "We're just going to tell our story through this." So that's how we think about the PLL too, is, okay, shit, if MLB was started instead of the early 1900s in the 21st century, how would they design their programming?
That's true. Now, you have recently come out with a book called The Way of the Champion. Tell us about this book.
Well, it kind of ties back to a friend of mine who's my favorite author and an investor in the PLL, Ryan Holiday. He writes "Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy." He's a stoic writer. He called me in my final season before I retired and asked if I had ever thought about writing a book, and proposed an idea that was like hybrid athlete and business book. And he said, just basically let's sit together and write down a bunch of lessons you've learned over your career. But more importantly, Frank, I used to take walks like this with other athletes, basketball, baseball, football, I'd get on the phone, I'd fly out to conferences, I'd learn about what other athletes were doing. And through those lessons, I applied them to my career as an athlete, and then also what I was doing in business. Like Mark Cuban has a couple of chapters in there as a bit of a mentor, and Adam Silver. So consider the book a guide for becoming a great athlete, business person, entertainer, whatever you want.
So, what are your hopes for this big season? What are your goals for this upcoming PLL season?
Yeah. Well, I want more people to watch it. I want more people to attend games. I want to set records. We set a lot of records last year against our business, but one of them was we had 757,000 people tune in to our opening weekend game on ABC. I want to beat that number. I want to sell out more venues. I want to bring on new title partners to All-Star Game on the league side, to local team sponsorship. It's pretty business heavy, but ultimately I want more people and different people to watch lacrosse and care about the PLL.
Now, who are your biggest stars? If we're watching the PLL, who should we be looking for? What players should they circle and say, that's the guy, this is the team?
Yeah, reigning MVP, Utah Archers, Tom Schreiber, one of the greatest players of a generation. He's a bit like the Caitlin Clark of our sport. He can shoot from anywhere. He plays sort of freely, almost effortlessly. On your squad, Trevor Baptiste, he was 2 years ago's MVP. He's the best face-off player in the world. Plays offense, defense, just a beast. And then down in Carolina, there's a kid, Blaze Reardon, and Josh Byrne. Blaze Reardon's the best goalie I've ever played against and seen. Josh Byrne is like, if you look at a basketball player on the lacrosse field, that's his style. A lot of like pick rolls, shakes, swim moves, dunking from behind the net. So he's pretty exciting. Those guys, I would say, are worth the price of admission. And then all the way out in California, legend Rob Pennell, one of the most exciting midfielders in Romar Dennis, I think one of the best young talents in Nakai Montgomery, who plays college football at Duke and college lacrosse at Duke. And then the fourth guy on that team, a new signing who was the captain linebacker for Stanford football, Ricky Miezon. Many people forgot that he was the #1 high school lacrosse recruit in the country before deciding to play college football. He's a fucking beast. So we got loads of talent on each team. Those I would consider are the stars.
Now, I remember the Champions tournament down in Virginia.
Yeah.
Boston beat Philadelphia on a overtime sudden death.
Yeah.
Great goaltending by Boston in that game.
Yep. Kirst is one of the best goaltenders in the world. He's young. He's a brother of, I think, now going to probably be 4 or 5 players in the league. They have their youngest right now at Cornell, who's going to be a Tewaaraton finalist, which is essentially our Heisman Trophy. Boston Cannons, man. That's the team that drafted me back in 2008. They have 20-plus years of history in pro lacrosse. They're back. They're going to be playing at Harvard, which is where I started my career. And then they're going to play at Gillette.
Ooh.
So it's pretty cool to see them win a championship, especially in the Olympic format. And you were there, man. Did you like it?
Yes, I did. I thought it was very exciting. Very
Do you like that
fast-paced.
version better than the 10-on-10 version? Do you like the smaller or the larger?
I like the smaller. The larger, I haven't really gotten much exposure to them, except whenever I watch maybe the NCAA.
Yeah.
When they're the Final Four.
Yeah.
I remember Princeton had a little bit of a dynasty in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
They were really good.
A little bit. They won, I think, 4 championships in the 90s. Their head coach, Bill Tierney, now took over the Philadelphia Water Dogs. We announced him about a month ago, and that was big news. It was all over SportsCenter because you have, I don't even think it's arguable, you have the greatest coach of all time who's won 8, I think, national championships. He won a world championship in '98. He's a beast. He's so dynamic. He's a U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Famer. The field is named after Bill Tierney, and we were able to sign him to coach the Water Dogs.
Oh, that's terrific.
So that'll be good. Yeah, you'll see a lot of like throwback Princeton celebrations when he took the team to greatness. His son was the goalie, Trevor, back in the 90s, so it's a great family.
So it looks like it's going to be an exciting season coming along, and that's what you need. You need to grow the sport. I mean,
Yeah.
once the NBA, NHL, and it's just baseball and WNBA, and of course you got the Olympics to continue this year, but if you can find that little bit of avenue, I think you'll have something big on your hand.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we booked the summer. There's less competition. Football is all about the fall.
Well, football dominates everything.
Winter, it's cold too, by the way. We're an outdoor league. And it's basketball, hockey.
I mean, I just think about what the NFL has done to the NBA on Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, no, that's not your holiday anymore, it's ours.
Yeah.
I hear that you have, you're trying to bring lacrosse to more people.
Yeah.
And you've started an initiative to bring lacrosse to Harlem.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a shout out to my former Boston Cannons teammates. It was a good segue. Mike Levin, who's the CEO of a group called Harlem Lacrosse. They're now in 7 states across the country. They're more than just an after-school lacrosse program, though. They also offer after-school studying and tutoring programs. They get kids into college that play lacrosse. We'll have a Harlem Lacrosse alum in the PLL at some point soon, I'm sure. And what we do through our foundation, our 501 called PLL Assists, is we work with groups like Harlem Lacrosse to get sticks in hands and goals on field or goals on courts. And we send our players. I'm going up on May 6th to a practice, giving away a bunch of books and also going to shoot. And then we have our street lacrosse event that we do with Rich Kleiman and Kate Eade, who are investors in the PLL. That's going to be on May 11th. And so you'll see Harlem Lacrosse, City Lacrosse, Bronx Lacrosse, Brooklyn Lacrosse, all these organizations coming in, boys and girls, playing on Kevin's courts in the Lower East Side. And then we bring in some pros, men and women. It's such a sick block party. You got to come to that. That's on a Saturday from 2 to 5, I think. So we try to not just contribute resources to these organizations, we build events. And I think that's the path, man.
That's great, that's great. You know, I'm going to be going to at least one of the tournaments this week. Going to the weekend showcases.
Yeah.
Don't know which one I'll make yet, but I know I'm going to be at least one of them.
Maybe
and
opening
I look forward
weekend.
to seeing it.
Maybe we get you opening weekend.
When is the opening weekend this year?
June 1st.
June 1st.
That's that ABC game we want to pop. It's in Albany. You'll see the New York Atlas kick some ass.
Well, I look forward to the season. And of course, whether I'm there or not, at least I have the app to follow the Atlas.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Atlas makes some noise this year.
Oh yeah, they got an all-time coach, by the way, Mike Pressler. It was his first time coaching pro lacrosse last year. I think he'll turn it around.
Now, I heard you mention football players playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people noticed, but one of the greatest football players of all time, Jim Brown, was arguably a better lacrosse player than football.
Jim Brown, rest in peace, was an advisor to the PLL. He owned shares in the PLL. Our MVP award is named after Jim Brown. His wife Monique and his son Eris are fantastic people. They care a lot about the sport. They contribute to groups like Harlem Lacrosse. And Jim told me if there was a pro lacrosse league around when he graduated from Syracuse, he would have entered that versus the NFL. He was obsessed with lacrosse, still kept his sticks in his house, and has been a phenomenal sort of steward of the game. And the other one who kept a great relationship with Jim Brown, I think one of the best, if not the greatest coaches of all time, not just in NFL history. He wrote the foreword to this book for me, is Bill Belichick. He grew up playing lacrosse, loves the games, goes to the Final Four, comes to PLL games, and is just such a amazing mind for sport at large. One day I want to try to get him coaching in the PLL. I already tried messaging him and picking up the phone and calling him to come take over the Water Dogs. We got a better fit with Bill Tierney for now. But one day I want to get Coach Belichick.
Why not the Cannons?
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
I mean, he's an icon in Boston. So why not the Cannons?
Bill Tierney tried to get him to be his defensive coordinator. Think about all the press that would show up to training camp if Bill was coaching a team.
That would be something else.
I know it would make Big Cat and PFT happy. We're still trying to work on getting Bill on PMT. I don't think they'll have me back on the show until I can land that booking for them.
Hey, maybe one day I'll even do a walk with Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And I can use some pointers for Jenks over here.
Oh,
Jenks and Mikey.
You'd have to walk quieter streets, so Bill keeps a really subtle tone, you know?
But, you know, I look forward to the league. Hopefully, this is, it seems like you have a great model.
Yeah.
I mean, getting on TV, putting it out there, connecting with social media. I think that's how you build a league.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to the season. I'm glad that you have an app that I can follow, because I'm going to be on the road a lot myself this year. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be helpful, I think. And I wish nothing but great success. Again, the book that's coming out is The Way of the Champion. I mean, this is a guidebook. You can learn about this guy right here. And of course, thank you for joining me on the walk, and all guests who joined my walk get a nice Frank Walks
Incredible,
t-shirt.
Man. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, brother. I look forward to having you at a game.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.